All right, you know the moment when you're out with friends or family and you're going to take a selfie to, you know, make the moment and put it in stone forever. And you get with your family and you're about to take the picture, but you got to make sure the light is right, the angles are right, everyone has their good side, everything looks great. And you take that picture and you look at it and everyone seems really happy, and then you post it either that moment or later on. And all those likes start to come in. Oh, it was great. You looked like you had a great time. And you feel good about yourself. But maybe a couple hours later and days later, you're wondering and looking at the picture like, did that really capture the moment? Are we just showing something that was really good, but maybe it didn't really capture the essence of me arguing with mom right before, during supper or the menu? And there's this conundrum like, is this who I want people to really see? Is this the real me? So let's talk about it. Welcome to Breaking Formation. This is a show about how to navigate in this fast-paced, ever-changing world, especially with AI coming on. I'm your co-host, Meryl Tengestal, retired Air Force Colonel extraordinaire, and I'm here with Shay Finney, resident expert in child development and psychology.
Yes. Hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so just a reminder that any information presented today in our show is for educational purposes only. This is not intended to treat, diagnose anyone. If you need to do so, please seek the advice of a medical professional, or we'll leave Shay's information later. I'm just, you're like, no!
You're going to all 50,000 of your too, though.
So let's dive into it. The digital self versus the real self. There are a lot of times we get caught up in trying to show people a version of ourselves that is not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
What does it really mean? Let's define this, the digital self. What does that really mean, and why is it so important to really define that terminology?
Well, I think like you had described it just right. Like it's just that snapshot, that moment of the picture being taken. We don't capture what's happening before, after, during, and we don't necessarily always capture the real true emotion. It's like this picture that we paint and present to the world, not necessarily our true authentic self.
In this day and age, why is it so important to, we talk about our authentic self. Why is it so important to realize that that you're doing that, especially young teenagers, young adults who really want to put their best foot forward? Why is it so important to realize that's what's going on?
Well, I think it is about not really giving a full, complete picture of yourself. And so what ends up happening, and we can talk a little bit more in detail about it, but it takes you away from your identity, so to speak. And a lot of times it takes a long time to get there. So between the ages of 12 and 14, children, teenagers are going through this huge transformation in their brain. And basically, their brain is getting rid of things they're no longer using and really strengthening the things that they are. And so in Dan Siegel's book, Brainstorm, he talks about what's called the essence. And it's an acronym that talks about what's happening with teenagers during this time of life. And so when they're presenting these false versions of themselves, not necessarily fake, but incomplete picture, right? Like you take a cute picture and your cute hair and all of that stuff in front of the mirror, but what you don't see is the messy bedroom behind you, or mom and dad arguing downstairs, or you just had gotten an F on your paper and broke up with your boyfriend all on the same day, but you look super cute in the Instagram post.
I could see that. I have my daughter who will get dressed in the morning. She goes, I got my fit on, I got
Mm-hmm.
my shoes on. And I'm not saying I fed into that as a parent because I'm really into sneakers, but I
What
and
sneakers are you wearing today?
I'm I'm just wearing my trainers. So my Reebok trainers, the Nano X, but my kids are really like we're really into sneakers. I think that's one of my parts in my childhood that I didn't get the sneakers that I wanted as a
Yes.
kid. So now I'm a grown person and I could do that stuff.
Do it all, yes.
But getting up in the morning, taking pictures as young adults, even for me, like on social media, there is this need to show all the wins, to
Mm-hmm.
show everything as perfect as possible. I think even I have issue in terms of making sure that the if I'm gonna record something that the light is right, that I don't look like I hate to say this like an unlocked character or I'm really I really
Right.
I don't want to show those bad sides because I know in my head I can already hear the trolls going and
Mm-hmm.
saying something. So for young adults, I'm sure that pressure is 100 times more.
Right.
They want to dump all the crappy pictures or they want to dump the fact that your mom said something when
Mm-hmm.
you were trying to smile and screwed it
Right.
up, or the brother or sister in the background doing something 100% inappropriate. So when does that become from, you know, just trying to present 100% wins all the time to being psychologically damaging to someone? When does that happen? How does that occur? When is the breaker switch or the light comes on and that happens?
Well, I think it's this is actually true for adults and for teenagers is really that presentation of false self, right? And so we look at our own personal value system, if you will. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but in terms of that personal value system, is who am I at the core? What do I believe in? What do I stand for? And how do I operate in the world? When I talk to kiddos about and adults about their value system, I really phrase it as this is your GPS. This is your guide to how you make decisions, how you continue to just kind of go about life. And so if you're off course, you're going to really know you're off course and the car doesn't drive in the right direction. You might get the GPS lady saying turn around, turn around, turn around, and oftentimes we ignore that. So back to what that means is our value system again is basically our guide. So like for me, for example, and I know you and I have had lots of conversations about our personal values and what we stand for. And so for me, like my personal value is of service, right? Like that is something that I strive to each and every day. I try to be of service to the community, to the world, to my animals, to my family, but to give something back and to serve. Another one of my personal values is honesty. I'm going to be honest, and I may put my foot in my mouth a lot of times, most of the time, but that's one of my value systems. And I can't go wrong with that if I'm not being honest. So if we go to look at some of the things on social media, a lot of times we go against those value systems, right? Like if I post something where I'm like, a size 2 and my hair's down to my knees and all of that stuff, that's not being honest. So I go against my own values.
Right. So, yeah, there is. So, a lot of times I'll mess around with camera angle to
Mm-hmm.
get the best look. Because as we get older,
Oh yeah.
we don't want the sags and the wrinkles to happen.
Right.
So we,
Filters are great.
yeah, I don't like to use filters, but I definitely like to have just the right angle.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm not shooting from down above. Like no one wants to see under my nose and see
Right.
all this. It makes me feel a little self conscious. But I think you're right about the value system that is in place. I think about it as flying,
Mm-hmm.
when you're navigating to a destination, your navigation system needs to be up and running. And if you're going off course, then that could be a big issue. So, you shared some of your value systems. For me, integrity is really big. Doing the right thing when no one's watching
Mm-hmm.
is huge for me. And I find that's a deal breaker for relationships that I have with people.
Yeah.
So much so. Being compassionate and kind and empathetic are
Mm.
those value systems, especially today in this day and age,
Right.
especially on social media when you see people, because again, these are just snapshots in time for people. So you don't know what they were going through. You don't know the other context or things that were happening in the
Hmm.
background that ended them up there. So I try to really, if I'm going to comment on something, I really try to take into account, okay, this is a snapshot, this is what I see. With that, for me as a person, I always try to be authentic as much as
Hmm.
possible.
Right.
There's a couple of things that we can do in the social media age, especially dealing with kids and letting them know what they can do to feel good about it. Because I think for most young adults, trying to show the wins, trying to show 100%, trying to show it perfect all the times is mentally and emotionally exhausting.
Hmm.
And they can't keep it up. And in the moment that they falter and someone notices something or says something negative, some of them go into a tailspin or
Yeah.
start beating themselves up. So, what what recommendations would you have for some people
Yeah.
or young folks that are going through that?
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you were saying because it reminded me of this kiddo that I worked with in one of my groups, and we were talking about social media, and he had come up with the fact that he has three selves, right? Like he has this self that he is at home, right? Just kind of chill, maybe a little, grungy, whatever that is at home with mom and dad. He has this self that he presents to school where he's very stoic, very calm, just very nonchalant with life. But then you look at his social media and he is very fierce and mean and, posturing like he's like this big bad self, right? And I think about that in terms of one, the strain and stress that goes on him to be those three different people. And then getting lost of like, who am I actually, right? And then in that 12 to 14 age range is such a really pivotal time in kids' lives. So Dan Siegel talks about it. He uses the acronym ESSENCE. Basically broken down is ES is the emotional spark. That's the intense emotions that teenagers feel. And that promotes self discovery. The social engagement, which is a shift from parents to peers. And it's a way to foster and support like independence, like I'm my own person. But thinking about that in terms of the social media world, where they're generating this self that may not necessarily be an independent self because they're so dependent on the likes and the responses that they get from the culture or from the community. The other one for essence is NS, which is novelty seeking, which is just risking just enough to no limits, to no boundaries. And that can promote like adaptivity.
Abda- Adaptivity.
There it is. That's it. Okay, and then the last part is the CE, which is creative expression, which is a good part of social media because if you are really creative, my daughter may not like that I'm going to talk about her, but my daughter's an amazing artist and she does put some of her drawings and her creativeness on social media. She's an amazing artist and but that's also a part of her that she keeps very, I don't want to say private because she knows she's a good artist, but that's a part of her that's her expression. And
Mm,
so if we can cultivate that, putting the things that are truly authentic to you out for the world to see, I think that's really important.
I like that. So, if you were, you know, first of all, I want to see your daughter's pictures.
Oh yeah.
That'll be amazing. Just because of some other projects I'm working on.
Yeah, I'll show you.
That
She's pretty talented.
that's awesome. So, what are what are some tools that to help kids remain authentic and true to themselves and still be able to post and feel comfortable. And you talked about this one person, this one individual had basically three identities that you
Mhm.
have to juggle,
Yeah.
and that's with life.
Mhm.
So imagine other people who have hundreds of followers or thousands or tens of thousands or maybe millions of followers trying, as young adults, trying to put all of this in one bundle. How do they get to their true self, and how do they share that with people in a
Mhm.
way that is authentic?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think, again, teenage self is trying to figure out who you are. It's that explorations. And so they may need to try on a few hats to figure out who their true self is. And I'm a firm believer is we find out who we are by finding out who we're not.
Mm.
And so it's kind of that trial and error of figuring out, okay, I'm not a singer, but I like to sing, but I'm not a singer, or I like to draw, but I'm not an artist. Figuring out who we're not really reinforces who we are. So part of that exploration, but I think really doing the work, and this is where their parent comes into play, is to really help them identify what their personal values are. And so their decisions then come, or decisions on what to post come from, is this authentic to me? Does this feel real? Or am I just putting an image out on there for the likes?
So I think that's a great point. One, determining if you're going to post and if you have social media and you're going to post, number one, are you doing it for the likes, or you're doing it to have this creative message? Are you doing this to try to connect with the audience in
Hmm.
certain ways, or share a small part of
Yeah,
yourself about what you do? I think if you switch the focus from wanting the likes, which is the dopamine hit,
100%.
to feel good for that moment in that moment, to how can I connect with people? How can I connect with people if I'm quirky, if I'm very stoic, if I'm a great artist? This is who I am as a teenager. Watch me focus more on watch me evolve
Hmm.
from this one person who may be awkward right now
Right.
to growing up, and connect with me, and let's uplift, or
Yeah.
let what I do help uplift others. I think that would be a better way to handle it as a young adult. As a For me, I mean, I had to learn that when I first got on, 7 years ago, that the best way to handle this is just be who you are
Hmm.
and have those mistakes, own it, it's part of the integrity, be able to laugh at yourself,
Right.
and to connect with people on that level. And
Hmm.
you'll see things change, I think, very quickly, very rapidly.
Right. I totally agree. And that's why we're including the outtakes. No, just kidding.
Yes.
um, but the thing too to remember is our brains are a connection brain, right? And so we are wired for connection. It's part of our survival. And that's why it's so essential to have authentic connection, because it really is just a measure of how we continue to thrive and move forward in this world. And like you said, the dopamine hits really do impact how we feel about ourselves, about the world, and can really make or break a day. So I think just really making sure we invest in authentic relationships, whether it's even virtually. A lot of people foster relationships virtually now.
100%. What I find most interesting is when I do social media, and I'll have someone who's new who just started following me who will reach out and say, "I love your content. I'm I'm this person who's trying to get my private pilot's license and do this. Do you have any recommendations?" And I answer back, and I'll answer like voice message,
Hmm.
and they'll be shocked, like, "Holy cow, you answered me!" And I
Yeah.
go, "Yeah, it's about my whole thing is about talking to people, uplifting people, helping people where I can,
Hmm.
networking, and making those connections that may feel so far away very close."
Yeah.
And so, for all those out there, start focusing on that instead of likes or shock value
Hmm.
or something crazy, and you'll find that it's more sustainable.
100%.
It makes you feel more comfortable, and people will gravitate towards authentic, good content.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think it's just being honest with who you are and just being creative of this is who I am, this is my self-expression.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank,
you.
thank you so much for sharing and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And I hope today people um, will use some of those lessons that we're talking about and just apply it to everyday life.
Yeah,
And
we're flying high.
yeah, and that's what we have for today. So join us next time when we talk about parents sharing photos of their kids. Thanks again. If you like us, subscribe, follow.
Heart.
Take care. All
Bye.
right.